Welcome to The Know. I'm Ashley.
I'm Gus.
The biggest news of the week so far probably has been Microsoft dropping the bombshell that all future Xbox exclusives will now be a part of their Game Pass subscription service on launch day, which has led to a lot of discussion about the future of the Xbox platform and really of gaming in general, if this is going to change the way the games are distributed and so on and so forth. It's very disruptive, but not in a bad way.
But believe it or not everybody out there is a fan of this new all-digital model that sees players getting their hands on lots of new and old games for super cheap.
What? No way.
Spoiler alert, it's the retailers.
Well, one retailer specifically, who's now said in a huff that they are going to stop selling Xbox consoles altogether as a result of this news because, well, they don't really see much of an upside for themselves anymore.
This certainly isn't the first sign we've had that Game Pass and the retail model are at odds with one another, and it looks like the two might start coming to a head a bit sooner than we realized.
Now, before we get into all that, because that's a lot to unpack, let's just go over the announcement. The store in question was an Austrian outfit known as Gameware, a retailer that started in the software sales business back in 1989. They've now serviced nearly 375,000 customers.
That's an interesting way to put it, service the customer. Speaking with German magazine Gamesmarkt, Gameware had some choice words about Microsoft after their announcement that Game Pass would start receiving Xbox exclusives on day one.
The retailer said they're a little confused as to why anyone would want to continue selling Xbox consoles after the recent news, which brings zero profit and only expenditure. From their point of view, Game Pass is a move so that Microsoft alone is profiting from the sale of software rather than their retail partners, so why would they sell consoles?
I see. They went on to say, if you want to do business alone, you should do the work alone. And in a way, it's sort of hard to argue that point, at least from the point of view of a retailer. After all, most of the profit in the video game business is made from software sales rather than hardware sales. And if retailers are getting cut out of that chain, why should they continue selling the hardware?
It is true, like sometimes consoles will sell at a loss intentionally and plan on making it up with software sales. So while one store is taking a stand against Xbox and their digital profit probably isn't going to affect Microsoft all that much one way or the other. I mean, it will a little bit, but it's probably not going to be the make or break. But it is a telling glimpse of the retail side of things following Xbox's big reveal about Game Pass earlier this week, and an indication of how other retailers are probably feeling whether or not they've actually done this yet.
Which is probably why Microsoft went out of their way to pay some lip service to their retail partners when they first published their announcement. In the blog post, Phil Spencer wrote, "As part of today's library expansion, we are also pleased to announce that we are working closely with our retail partners, such as GameStop, to offer a 6-month Game Pass subscription card for those fans who look for a variety of ways to purchase and enjoy new games and service."
Also handy for the types of consumers that don't have credit cards, so you can actually go and buy it at retail. A lot of people buy their Xbox credit that way as well, so makes sense. He went on to say, by working closely with retail partners, Xbox Game Pass will have valuable ambassadors in popular destinations for gamers to discover new and exciting games and enjoy community.
Ambassadors.
Yeah,
I mean, that's totally an olive branch so that GameStop doesn't get too pissed off at them, which is the tightrope that publishers and console makers have had to walk since the digital ecosystem first became a thing.
Yeah, like, you know how gamers are always wondering, why aren't digital games cheaper than physical ones yet? They totally should be. You're absolutely right. When you're cutting out the middleman, the price would theoretically be lower, except, in addition to the publishers getting a bigger cut of revenue, it would also really piss off the retailers who the publishers still need to move games or, well, more importantly, hardware. So I worked for Xbox in Australia for several years, and the consumer market works a little bit differently there than it does in the US. So in the US, you can set a minimum price, and retailers can charge above that if they want, right? In Australia, it's the opposite. They've got what they call RRP, and that's the maximum price. But retailers can go below that if they want to. So no one really changes RRP because retailers will just discount stuff on their own. But when I was there when we were just starting to do digital sales on Xbox 360. They were just starting to roll that out. And I wasn't super integrated with the sales team, so I heard a lot of it like second or third hand. But they had to jump through a lot of hoops to mollify the Australian retailers because there was no online disruptor like Amazon in the country at the time anyway, and so they had to try to keep the retailers happy and ended up agreeing to sell for RRP only, so the games basically stayed forever at the highest price, and couldn't sell within the first 6 months of a game's launch. Wow. So it was basically like, why would I do this digital stuff? And it looked really bad on Microsoft, understandably, because everyone's like, why there's no value to this. Why would I do it? But they were just trying to keep retailers happy so they'd continue to sell their consoles. So this exact situation didn't happen.
Well, it also seems like there's metered internet is a lot more prevalent down there and slower internet speeds. So the value proposition becomes pretty different.
I can't imagine like who would look at all those factors and go, yeah, digital distribution sounds like a great idea.
Well, hopefully we've gotten further along since then. I mean, because when you think about it, Game Pass is even more of a threat to retailers because of what it is. Because in a way, it's essentially Microsoft cutting the legs out from under not only the used game business, since Game Pass makes use of so many older games that people would typically buy once they hit lower prices.
True.
But also the new game business as well, thanks to this new exclusive initiative.
Although it is very limited since it's only first-party Microsoft titles. So it's not like
For
EA
now.
and Ubisoft. Yes, for now. With so many gamers potentially subscribing to games instead of buying them, though, suddenly there would be less games being traded back into stores because people didn't buy them in the first place to trade. The service basically upends that entire model. As VentureBeat put it last year, if more people are playing digital games, that takes product out of the supply chain that could end up on GameStop store shelves.
It's certainly not paranoia either. Look at what happened to PC games. Those used to be available to buy physically along with everything else, but Steam basically killed the physical PC gaming market all by itself, except for that one copy of StarCraft that's still on the shelf in Target. You know what I'm talking about. There's one copy of StarCraft in every Target in the world. I'm
every
convinced
single
of
one.
this. Valve was able to get away with that because they didn't have a pre-existing relationship with the retailers to nurture. They just kind of went for it and made millions as a result.
Well, they also weren't trying to get the GameStops of the world to sell their hardware. So we've seen the ripples of Game Pass already affect the retail space once before. Back when Game Pass was first announced, GameStop's stock kind of tanked. It dropped to nearly 8% in a matter of days. So it makes sense that this time around Microsoft would try to give them a couple shout outs, try to bolster that, and a way to make money from Game Pass for them before opening up the program in such a big way.
Right now, the jury's still out on how big of a success Game Pass could be. While some are saying it could usher in a new era of digital gaming, others are less sure about it. For instance, analyst Michael Pachter, good old Pack.
Pack Attack.
He said earlier this week that it won't make much of a difference for overall game sales.
However, it's interesting that we're already seeing one retailer at least feeling apprehensive enough about what this could mean for their future that they are kind of boycotting Xbox altogether. So we'll have to see how other retailers start feeling as the year goes on and Xbox potentially adds more subscribers alongside the release of some of their exclusives and how that ultimately affects new and used sales in the retail space.
The thing is, there will always be people who prefer physical games.
Eddy, talking about you.
They're a bit wary of subscription services or just don't have the internet connection suitable to really make the best use of something like Game Pass.
Yeah, but some people just want to have something that they specifically can trade in.
Yeah,
something
absolutely.
like, I own this, I am selling this. This is a physical thing with real value.
Yeah, the market's always going to be there. We've already seen in recent years that it's shrinking in a major way.
Now, last year, the ESA reported that digital game sales make up 74% of game sales in the US now. So at a certain point, that scale is going to tip in a difficult direction for physical retailers. I mean, if you go into a GameStop now, you can see they've had to diversify away from just selling games. So they sell a lot of like toys and collectibles and all that stuff as well, like lifestyle things to make up the difference.
Yeah, stuff you can't get digitally.
Exactly.
What do you guys think of a retailer refusing to sell Xbox consoles following Game Pass? Let us know in the comments.
And for future updates on all things Xbox, remember to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the know.
But believe it or not everybody out there is a fan of this new digital... I forgot the word all. Speaking with German magazine Gamers Markt, is there a letter missing there, German?
Gamesmarkt.
Germany?
Gamesmarkt. Why would they sell consoles?
I see. They went on to say, if you want to do business alone, you should do